Kevin Stefanski's recent decisions are under fire, not because of conservative play calling, but because of what fans are seeing with their own eyes. In breakdown after breakdown, Cam Robinson can be seen abandoning basic blocking duties, even pushing defenders toward Shedeur Sanders in what looks unmistakably like sabotage. Analysts have dissected the footage frame by frame, with growing consensus. This isn't just poor play. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. This is someone actively compromising the quarterback's protection. It's not just that Robinson is struggling. It's the methodical nature of it that's so unsettling. Defensive players aren't just slipping by. They're being ushered in. Body language, footwork, timing, all of it suggests something more than incompetence. Combine that with management's silence and teammates trying to shield the coaching staff from criticism, and the pattern starts to look systemic. The pressure is mounting for the Browns to act or risk losing all trust in their offensive integrity. You saw the clip. It wasn't subtle. In the middle of a Browns game, with Shedeur Sanders dropping back to throw, Cam Robinson, left tackle, veteran, supposed protector, barely lifts a hand as the edge rusher blasts through untouched. Not once, not twice, but multiple times across recent weeks. The same sequence played out like a bad rerun. Robinson either whiffed entirely or turned his body just enough to let chaos through, and all of it landed squarely on Sanders. What started as suspicion has now gone full viral. Side-by-side game footage edits show Robinson redirecting defenders towards Sanders with the kind of oops body language that's hard to sell as accidental. Analysts aren't buying it. Fans aren't either. And on social media, the word sabotage is no longer hyperbole. It's the Cam Robinson's role in the growing disaster that is the Browns' offensive line has become the eye of the storm. At first, it looked like poor performance. A missed block here, a late pickup there. But as the games piled up, so did the clips. Robinson standing flat-footed or worse, pivoting in ways that practically created lanes for defenders to light up Sanders. In one particularly brutal sequence, Robinson makes minimal contact with the edge rusher, then spins out away just as Sanders sets his feet. It's not clumsy, it's coordinated. And the internet noticed. Is he blocking ghosts? One tweet read. Another. Cam Robinson is playing for the other team. Harsh? Maybe. But when the tape lines up with the accusations, it's hard to ignore. This isn't just about bad technique. It's the repetition. Game after game, Robinson's breakdowns happen in ways that don't resemble confusion or slow feet. They look choreographed. In at least 3 recent games, he redirects pass rushers to Sanders' blind side while ignoring easier blocks. It's a pattern that's too precise, too consistent, and too damaging to dismiss as coincidence. Film analysts have broken it down frame by frame, and what they found only fuels the fire. There's no hustle in Robinson's movement, no adjustment when he's beat, just an open door and a quarterback getting hit. And if this were just incompetence, it would be one thing. But when every missed block seems to lead directly to a sack, that's a whole different level. Kevin Stefanski hasn't addressed it directly, but his fingerprint are all over this mess. From mismanaging protection schemes to sticking with Robinson week after week, the head coach's silence is almost as loud as the footage itself. It's not just that Robinson is playing poorly. It's that he keeps playing at all. Critics are circling Stefanski for failing to intervene. How many weeks of breakdowns does it take before someone pulls the plug? When your franchise quarterback is getting tossed around and your left tackle is letting it happen, staying the course starts to look like complicity. Whether it's favoritism, denial, or just mismanagement, the coaching staff isn't just watching this happen. They're letting it continue. Joe Bitonio, one of the team's most veteran voices, chimed in with vague support for the coaching staff, saying they trust Stefanski's decisions and are working as a unit. But even that felt thin. No one on the line has publicly defended Robinson's play. No one stepped up to say, that's not sabotage, that's just football. The silence says plenty. And it's not like the rest of the defensive line is thriving either. But Robinson's issues aren't just individual, they're systemic. He's the weak link that's dragging the entire unit into controversy. If there's any internal frustration, It hasn't reached the microphones. But behind the scenes, you'd be hard-pressed to believe the locker room hasn't noticed. Week after week, the Browns' offense looks stuck, and Shedeur Sanders is paying the price. In losses, in stalled drives, in injuries avoided only by luck, the breakdowns up front are the recurring theme. The tape doesn't lie. Neither do the stats. Pressure rates are up. Completion percentages are down. And for a quarterback still finding his rhythm in the league, it's a nightmare scenario. The most damning part? It's not just one bad game. It's a string of them. The same kind of plays. The same failures to protect. The same number 74 standing upright as defenders scream past him. If Robinson isn't benched soon, the Browns might as well hang a free hit sign on Sanders' jersey. Shedeur hasn't said much, but you can read it in his body language. The frustration, the second-guessing, the subtle glances to the sideline. After another sack, he's a poised quarterback, known for staying calm under pressure. But even that has limits. When you're getting hit 3 seconds into every dropback, no amount of composure will save you. He's still making plays, still standing tall, but the clock is ticking. And if the front office doesn't get serious about protecting him, the damage could go beyond bruises. It could be confidence, development, trust in the people around him, the kind of long-term consequences you don't come back from. After the most recent loss, Stefanski danced around the issue. When asked about protection, he spoke in generalities. "We got to clean some things up," he said. "We'll look at the tape." That's not going to cut it anymore. The tape doesn't need reviewing. It's already reviewed by half the internet. Fans expected accountability. What they got was more of the same. No mention of Robinson. No hint of lineup changes. Just a shrug and the promise of improvement. But at this point, the evidence is stacked. The only question is whether the coaching staff is willing to act or just ride the sabotage into another losing streak. Shedeur's own post-game comments were reserved but telling. "We've got to execute better. I've got to be better." It's the kind of thing quarterbacks are trained to say, even when the real story is obvious. But his tone was clipped. His answer is short. And when asked about the offensive line, he paused longer than usual before answering. There's only so long you can carry the burden for a team that's not protecting you. Sanders has been diplomatic, but he's not blind. He sees what's happening. He feels every hit. And if this continues, it's not just a season that could unravel. It's his relationship with this organization. The next day, in a more formal press conference, Sanders stayed composed but firm. "It's a team game. We've all got responsibilities. I trust my guys, but we got to fix what's broken." It's the closest he's come to calling it out. And it's clear he knows exactly where the cracks are forming. There's a line between loyalty and survival. Sanders is a pro, and he's handling the situation like one. But the questions are getting louder. The tape is getting worse. And unless something changes fast, the quarterback the Browns are betting their future on might not wait around for someone to save him. The Browns' collapse isn't just happening in the standings. It's unraveling in real time, on film, in headlines, in the reaction of fans who know exactly what they're watching and refuse to be gaslit by vague coach speak. These aren't isolated plays. They're sequences that repeat. Robinson's man doesn't just get past him, they get funneled. And the Browns still won't pull the trigger on a lineup change. That refusal has created an atmosphere of disbelief. Every week that Robinson lines up as a starter is another week the Browns look unserious about protecting their franchise QB. The longer they ignore it, the louder the public outcry gets. People aren't asking for tweaks. They're demanding. At this point, the only real question left around Cam Robinson is intent, because incompetence doesn't explain everything. Missed blocks are one thing, but when you actively angle your body in a way that opens a free lane to the quarterback, what are people supposed to think? One breakdown showed Robinson literally looking back at the rusher he missed, as if double-checking that he got through clean. It's that kind of body language, the absence of urgency, the lack of recovery effort, that feeds the sabotage narrative. He doesn't chase. He doesn't re-engage. He just watches. That's not a blown play. That's something else. And that something else has become a full-blown storyline. Fans aren't just angry. They're dissecting every snap, like it's a true crime case. Analysts are publishing full breakdowns, showing frame by frame how Robinson helps defenders finish their rushes. One clip even shows him shuffling sideways, as if escorting the pressure straight to Sanders. There's no mystery anymore. The internet is on fire with clips, memes, and calls for Robinson's benching. Not because he had a bad day, but because he's had too many of the same bad day in a row. That's the difference. This isn't a slump. It's sabotage, caught on tape and broadcast for the world to see. Kevin Stefanski, still avoiding specifics, now finds himself caught in the crosshairs. The longer he defends the status quo, the more it looks like he's complicit in the problem. When a head coach refuses to acknowledge something that's visible, it's not just frustrating, it's alarming. You'd think, after back-to-back games where Sanders hit the turf more times than he hit his receivers, that Stefanski would be the first one calling for adjustments. But instead, it's been silence. Or worse, defensive responses. We believe in our guys, he said again this week. But belief doesn't block edge rushers. Action does. Sanders, meanwhile, continues to say just enough without blowing up the locker room. He doesn't call out names. He doesn't throw teammates under the bus. But you can hear it in the pauses, in the rehearsed but clipped tone of someone walking a tightrope between diplomacy and desperation. He's holding it together, for now, but there's a real risk here. Not just of more sacks or more losses, but of eroding trust. When a quarterback starts to feel like he's being set up, it changes things. The relationships, the effort, the ability to lead with full confidence. And right now, Sanders is leading under fire, literally and figuratively. Joe Bitonio has tried to serve as the adult in the room, offering standard-issue locker room support. We have to get better as a unit, he said. It's not on one guy. But let's be honest, it is on one guy more than anyone else. And everyone knows who that is. Bitonio may be doing his job trying to keep the media frenzy from fully detonating inside the building, but the lack of a real defensive statement for Robinson is loud. It's been radio silence from those closest to him. Not a single teammate has stepped up to defend him publicly. That's not just telling, it's damning. After the Browns' latest meltdown, Stefanski faced a room full of reporters who weren't asking vague questions anymore. They wanted to know, plain and simple, what the deal is with Cam Robinson. And Stefanski did what he always does. He dodged. We'll evaluate everything, he said. We're always looking at ways to improve. But that's the same line he gave 3 games ago. What's changed since then? Nothing, except Sanders is getting hit harder and more often, and the locker room is running out of patience. Sanders was once again pressed after the game. Did he trust his protection? Did he feel confident behind the line? And again he stayed composed. I trust my team, he said, but we've got to be better. Period. That pause before answering? Longer this time. The tight-lipped delivery? Even tighter. There's a storm building behind Sanders' calm. You can see it. And if something doesn't change soon, that storm is going to break. He's giving everyone a chance to do the right thing. But you only get so many hits before you stop waiting for help and start demanding it. The games have become highlight reels for the wrong reasons. Clip after clip of Robinson standing still, reaching too late, turning away from pressure, or casually watching Sanders hit the ground. It's viral for all the wrong reasons. And in a league where tape doesn't lie, those images have more power than any press conference. Fans have had enough. The sentiment is unanimous. Robinson needs to sit, not because people want a scapegoat, but because the quarterback is under siege, and it's not accidental. The league sees it. Analysts see it. Most damning of all, Sanders sees it. And that's the part the Browns can't afford to. At his next media appearance, Sanders struck a careful balance between composure and urgency. We need to make sure everyone's on the same page, that we're all pulling in the same direction, he said. It's a quarterback way of saying, someone isn't. This was the most measured warning yet. A shot across the bow without naming names. But the implication was clear. If the team wants to protect its investment, it has to show it. Because right now, it looks like the organization is asking Sanders to succeed while someone on his own side tears the foundation out from under him. The Browns were supposed to be building something. A new era, a young, talented quarterback. fresh leadership, momentum. Instead, every game looks like it's unraveling faster than the last. The scoreboard doesn't just show losses, it shows dysfunction. The stands are filled with fans shaking their heads. And every press conference is starting to sound like a copy-paste of last week's excuses. It's not just about wins anymore. It's about credibility. How do you talk about a team identity when half the offense looks like it's on a completely different mission? The only consistent thing about the Browns right now is the inconsistency and the complete lack of protection for the one player they claim to be building around. There's no universe where Cam Robinson should still be starting. Not after this many blown protections. Not after the avalanche of proof. And not with a quarterback this valuable absorbing the fallout. Yet somehow, week after week, he trots back out there like nothing happened. The Browns can't play the development card anymore. This isn't about growing pains. This is about active harm, about repeated, documentable failure that borders on sabotage. And every time they let him line up at left tackle, they're telling fans, players, and Sanders himself that performance doesn't matter. That accountability is. Stefanski's refusal to address the elephant in the room is turning into a full-blown leadership crisis. Coaches make mistakes. It happens. But when a mistake becomes a pattern, and that pattern starts to define your season, you don't get to hide behind platitudes anymore. At some point, you either make the hard decision, or the hard decision gets made for you. And if Stefanski keeps backing Robinson, the fallout could land squarely on his desk. Because when the film keeps showing your guy failing, and you keep pretending not to see it, the blame shifts from the player to the coach. Fast, Sanders, still shouldering the weight, has shown more professionalism than most veterans twice his age. But that won't last forever. You can't keep getting crushed behind the line and stay quiet indefinitely. Every quarterback has a breaking point. And Sanders? He's getting close. He's done everything asked of him. Kept calm. Answered questions. Owned mistakes that weren't his. But you can hear the shift in tone. It's subtle, but it's there. The patience is thinning. The belief is cracking. And if the Browns don't act soon, they risk not just losing games, but losing the guy they built the whole thing around. Even Bitonio, loyal to a fault, can't paper over what's happening. We're working through it, he said last week. That's not confidence. That's survival mode. It's the language of someone who knows the ship is taking on water, but can't admit it publicly. And it raises the question, how much longer before the rest of the locker room starts speaking up? How many more hits before someone finally says what everyone's thinking? That Robinson's presence on the field is a liability, not just to Sanders, but to the team's credibility. The silence can only hold for so long before it breaks. After another embarrassing loss, Stefanski faced the cameras again, and again dodged every meaningful question. We're evaluating all positions, he said. The same line, the same vague reassurances. No urgency, no ownership, just delay. By now it's become a meme. Evaluating all positions might as well be the Browns' official motto, but fans aren't laughing. Neither are analysts, because this isn't hard to evaluate. The tape is clear. The damage is obvious. What's left to evaluate? The only thing left to evaluate is why nothing's changing. Sanders' post-game demeanor said it all. He's still standing, but barely. You can see the frustration in every clipped response, every carefully chosen word. We didn't execute, he said. We've got to protect better. That last part, delivered flat, direct, and without spin, hit harder than any sack. He's done playing the nice guy. The subtlety is fading, because at some point, if no one else is going to say it, Sanders might have to. And if it gets to that point, it won't just be a locker room issue. It'll be a full-blown organizational crisis. The moment your quarterback calls out your coaches or line, that's the line you can't uncross. The footage is damning, and it's getting harder to ignore. You don't need to be a football expert to see it. Robinson whiffs the same way, again and again. The defensive ends barely get touched. The sacks pile up, and the body language from everyone else says it all. They're tired of it. Clips are now getting edited into montages. Cam's greatest hits, without a single block included. Every time Sanders goes down, the internet explodes. Because this isn't a fluke. It's not a one-off. It's a saga now. A documented, multi-week spiral that ends with your quarterback on the turf and your fan base. The biggest mystery is how Robinson's still out there. What's the plan? Hope no one notices? Wait for Sanders to break something? Hope a media distraction pulls focus away? It's not working. If anything, the refusal to address it is making things worse. At this point, even benching him might not be enough. The damage is already done. Trust is eroding. Every time Robinson walks out in uniform, it sends a message that no one's safe, that politics or pride or whatever's keeping him in the lineup matters more than performance, or worse, more than the quarterback. The final press conference of the week was calm but cold. Sanders, answering questions for the third time that week, didn't flinch. We're staying focused. But things have to improve. Immediately. That wasn't suggestion. That was a deadline. The Browns can't keep delaying the inevitable. The locker room sees it. The fans see it. And now Sanders has all but drawn a line in the sand. Protect me or deal with the consequences. Because he's not going to play martyr forever. And if the Browns won't protect their franchise QB, who will? If you're watching this and still wondering how this man has a starting job, you're not alone. Sound off in the comments. Hit that like button if you've had enough of the excuses. And subscribe if you want a full breakdown every time the NFL tries to sweep something under the rug.